This is Sarah, an 8-year-old girl that comes from Denmark. She has a lot of problems with her parents. They use alcohol and drugs, and they abuse her, both mentally and physically. She doesn't know what to do anymore, so she decides to search for help online because she likes to stay anonymous. And she also likes to have the control in her own hands. Luckily, she finds an organization called Børnetelefonen, which is a Danish child welfare organization that can help children like Sarah. She's worried, and she writes a letter to them. A letter explaining the issues she's facing. She hopes to get a reply sooner than later, but she's waiting and waiting and waiting. After a month, she still didn't get a reply and decided to commit suicide. How can we solve these kind of problems? What are solutions? Well, my name is Sharona, and I have a background in data science, and I'm currently doing the DCLeads master degree. It's an Erasmus Mundus master degree in digital communication leadership. And I am devoted to solve and try to understand these issues better. My track at DCLeads is in the field of technology and management. And I'm doing this both at Salzburg University in Austria and Aalborg University in Denmark. For my master project, I decided to look at this Danish child welfare organization and to see how they can classify letters even better. So this is the name of the organization, Børnetelefonen, and as I said, it sometimes takes a long time before they are able to reply to a letter they receive. Especially these days, in Corona times, there are so many concerned children. Some have problems that need a reply immediately, and others can maybe wait a little bit longer. Of course, we all know that technology might solve this issue. We do have automated systems that can classify incoming letters. This can be done with the use of machine learning algorithms. But the question is, would this actually work? And how appropriate would it be to do this? In order to answer this question, it is first important to understand whether machine learning algorithms actually have this capability and to see whether they're able to classify those incoming letters. And to really understand how much better or actually worse they are than expert human classifiers. On the other hand, we of course need to understand the limitations that are related to using machine learning algorithms to classify incoming messages. I guess we all understand the social and societal and scientific relevance of this study. Of course, for the society, it is important that those children get the help they need. But this research goes so much further than just this one Danish child welfare organization. There are many child welfare organizations that don't have the technical capabilities to actually handle the incoming messages they get in an effective, but definitely also a good way for those children. This research can actually also be used for many other organizations that deal with natural language processing, that deal with incoming messages. And on the other hand, there is a massive scientific relevance to this study. We're dealing here with letters written by Danish children. So we don't only have to work with messages that might contain errors, like typos, but definitely also a lot of slang and certain kind of chat language, but also it is a Danish language. And a Danish language, of course, is only spoken by a minority of the population and is definitely not that well researched as other languages like English. In this study, the methodology involves both a quantitative part and a qualitative part. For the quantitative part, is decided to look at 5,664 binary labeled letters. As the letters were labeled, it was able to apply supervised machine learning, meaning that the labels were actually used as the ultimate truth, and therefore it's being assumed that those human beings are gave perfect labels to the letters. The labels were given binary, which means that they were classified in terms of neglect. So they either said that a letter is about neglect or that a letter is not about neglect. And several machine learning classifiers were trained on this data. Of course, a train test split was being made to also make sure to evaluate the algorithms afterwards. This was done with the use of recall, precision, and F1 score. The machine learning classifiers that were used in this study were k-nearest neighbors, support vector machine, naive Bayes, logistic regression, decision tree, random forest, and a recurrent neural network. On the qualitative part, was decided to speak to several technical experts to really understand the capabilities in the field of natural language processing, but also was spoken to employees from Burns VGR and some volunteers from Börnetelefonen. This was done to understand how the classification was being done and also what was actually the goal of this algorithm, this machine learning classifier that would be made. Also was looked at several child welfare organizations abroad to get a better understanding about how they function and how they work and operate. In this study was found that a support vector machine would have the best performance. It said that it could correctly classify 23% of the letters which are about neglect, and 94% of letters that were not about neglect. Of course, the goal is to get a 100% score. Well, the letters which were not about neglect were closely to this 100%. The letters which were about neglect were actually a lot further apart. This mainly has to do with the fact that only 11% of the data set were letters which were about neglect. So it's definitely the minority group. So that is very important to take this into account. And of course, those scores are expected to increase once this algorithm is actually put into place with the help of human supervisors that could actually classify, could actually correct for the classifications of the support vector machine. And so the support vector machine can learn from its faults and improve over time. But of course, there are certain limitations as well. There are some technical limitations that definitely need more research, such as the length of the letters, the language of the letters. As I mentioned before, it was in Danish, but also certain other technical features such as the typos and the slang and this chat language that was used in those letters. And also it is important to get a better understanding about the acceptance towards using a machine learning classifier. Also, I looked into ethical machine learning, as this is, of course, a very, very important topic these days, especially when talking about a topic like this at a Danish child welfare organization. Luckily, there was another organization that research data from Börnetelefonen as well, but instead of researching the letters, they actually researched the chat messages, and they tried to look for the behavior in terms of gender and age, and they tried to make that ethical. So that was actually being used in this research. But of course, it would be very valuable if this ethical research and this ethical machine learning, well, if there's more research being done in this field, and that's definitely something that could be done in further research. Well, thanks a lot, not just from me, but of course also from all those kids that definitely need help, and that need to for them it is important, of course, that we do more research and that we really see what are the possibilities, and of course not to rush into getting, for example, a technical solution, but also not to just not do anything because people are scared. So again, thanks a lot. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks a lot.